If you've spent your whole life praying to a distant heaven, but still feel like God is too far away, maybe this is the moment your soul has been waiting for decades. Because what if the image of God you were taught was just the reflection of a fogged lens? And what if what you're searching for above was hidden all along in the deepest part of your being? Maybe you were never separated from God. Maybe you just forgot how to return. Today, we're not going to study doctrines or repeat old formulas. Today, we're going to open a door that has been sealed for centuries, not by walls of stone, but by veils of language, tradition, and fear. What is about to emerge is not information, it's remembrance. And don't worry if everything feels new, because deep down, this was always inside of you. For centuries, sacred words have been translated, molded, and adapted to suit the taste of empires. What was once pure spiritual fire became cold ink on scrolls. But not everything was lost. There is a phrase, just one, that survived through echoes and whispers passed on by the humble, the persecuted, and the forgotten. It wasn't a psalm, it wasn't a dogma, it was a whisper. The kingdom will not come. It already is. Most people never knew what that meant. What do you mean it already is? Where? How do we access it? And that's when everything starts to change, because that phrase was not just a metaphor. It was a direction, a coded map, and the path begins inside your very own body. Ancient manuscripts discovered in southern Ethiopia, buried more than 2 meters deep, far from imperial eyes, speak of a hidden teaching. A master, known only as the Son of Silence, taught that the human body was the temple, and that between the lungs and the heart there existed a hidden spark, not an organ, a vibration, an invisible point that ignited when spirit and matter reconciled. This point was called Nefesh Kadum, or ancient breath. The tradition said that when this point was activated, prayers no longer had to rise because they were already inside. It was no longer necessary to shout. Silence became more powerful than 1,000 words. But why hide this? Because when you discover that you carry the temple, the altar, and the light, you become free. And nothing scares systems of power more than people who no longer need to obey in order to feel sacred. That's why this knowledge was erased. Stories were rewritten. Intermediaries were chosen. Hierarchies were created. But not all truth can be killed. In the stone archives of an ancient desert order, there are records that this teaching was offered to a small group, 8 men and 1 woman, all simple artisans who learned not to worship, but to vibrate with the divine. They didn't wear purple robes, they had no titles, but when they touched the center of their chest with both hands and silenced their thoughts, they felt the presence, they felt the breath, and they cried. This wisdom did not die, it merely slept. And now before you, it awakens again, not as a theory, but as a calling. If your breathing changed a little while listening to this, if something in your chest seemed to expand, then you are not alone. The ancients never separated body from soul. For them, flesh and spirit danced together, and every separation between sacred and ordinary was an illusion crafted by men. And this is where the hidden teaching becomes even more radical. Because according to these forgotten manuscripts, the kingdom of God is not only already here, it is a living biological process, a living phenomenon unfolding in every awakened human being. The Nefesh Kadum, that invisible point between the chest and the lungs, was only the beginning. The real journey began when that point awakened and initiated an ascending movement. The texts speak of a light energy, almost liquid, rising through the 12 thoracic vertebrae like golden light spiraling upward. At each vertebrae, this light ignited a memory, courage, mercy, compassion, truth until it reached the base of the skull and something happened. A vision, a revelation, not with the eyes of the body, but with the eyes of the soul. This experience was called the Day Without Shadow, because those who lived it never saw the world the same way again. The pain remained, the world remained, but something inside had been lit, and no external darkness could extinguish it. This is what the ancient masters called the theory of the inner flame, a light that needed no witnesses, a faith that required no proof, only silence, breath, and surrender. Why have we never heard about this? Because this practice could not be sold, didn't fit in temples, didn't serve to reinforce spiritual hierarchies. It was too simple, too free, too real. In the deserts of Judea, there are records of a small group who relearned this path. They weren't monks nor scholars. They were mothers, potters, shepherds, and embroiderers. Each had lost something: a child, a father, a love. But there, amid the sand and silence, they found something the world could never offer: a presence that does not go away. One woman named Solamita left behind a scroll where she wrote just one sentence: "I did not find God. I found silence, and in the silence, He spoke my name." These words, simple and powerful, survived through time because they carry a truth the soul recognizes without explanation. Maybe you feel this now too. Maybe you're remembering something you didn't live in this lifetime. Maybe your body is telling you a story your mind does not yet understand. And that's okay. Now, take a deep breath. If something touched your heart up to this point, if you felt a chill or the urge to close your eyes, then you've already begun to awaken. And if this awakening found a home in you, I ask something subtle but powerful. Subscribe to this channel, not just as a click, but as a soul vow. It's not about numbers, it's about vibration. It's about telling the universe, I am ready to remember. And more, comment below not just your thoughts, but write a phrase that was born in you while listening. Something yours, something unique, something that might be a code for another who is silent but will feel the calling when they read your words. This is not about engagement. This is an echo, a spiritual ripple.
What you're feeling right now isn't new. It's a return. Remembrance doesn't come from the mind. It rises like an ancient fragrance the soul recognizes without knowing from where. And this is where we reveal what few have dared to say aloud. The kingdom is not a future destination. It's a living mechanism activated in silence. The lost tradition stated that by awakening the breath point and allowing the inner light to rise through the vertebrae, a person became a carrier of presence. This didn't bring status, it didn't bring power, it brought spiritual sight. The eyes of the body saw as before, but the heart knew something that once was impossible to name. And then what they called the inversion of the altar would occur. The temple was no longer something to be sought outside, but honored within. Breath became prayer, touch became sacrament, tears became liturgy. Everything changed, nothing changed, but the inner world spoke a new voice. Records say that those who lived this process were not isolated. Quite the opposite. They were overwhelmed with unconditional love, a desire to serve, to welcome, to light the flame in others without dimming their own. That is true discipleship, not repeating doctrine, but embodying the living presence. The same anonymous master, the Son of Silence, said that salvation wasn't an event, but a germination, and that the true Messiah would not arrive in clouds, but through those who awakened the light within and became bridges between worlds. He called this the return of the first voice. Now, pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Feel the air as if it were the first breath of creation. Hold it for a second and exhale as if releasing centuries of forgetting. This video was not made to teach you. It was made to remind you. And if you've come this far, something in you has already passed through a veil. You may not have all the answers, but you no longer carry the same questions. Now, more than ever, I invite you to remain with us, but not as someone who watches, as someone who belongs. Subscribe to this channel not just with your finger, but with your heart. Think of it as lighting a spiritual candle on a collective altar, where each new subscriber is a living flame. Here we don't form followers, we form rememberers. And please share your story. We want to know, what was the moment in your life when you felt something sacred touch you, even if no one else saw it? Write it in the comments. Don't be afraid to be intimate. This community is made of souls who are also awakening, each in their own way. And your experience might be the answer someone else has been waiting for years. If this video spoke to you, even in silence, leave your testimony in the comments. Say what you felt, what you understood, what you might not be able to explain, but know is true. And remember, you are not alone. We are here, waiting for you, ready to continue this journey from the inside out, from the visible to the invisible, from the forgotten to the eternal. Now, place your hands over your chest, close your eyes, and say, not with your mouth, but with your being, I remember.